Cool.
Hello. Yeah, let's see the song.
You just want Skittles.
With that.
We want to take a little bit more stats.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is like one that doesn't have the cut throughs.
Yeah.
This is the water.
Yeah.
Hogs there. Good morning.
Good morning.
Exciting.
That's was it. You moved out. So
Well, yeah, I just want too many people to go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. We have stayed here. So. Nice. So, hi. Yes. Thank you. Megan's the Brady's been doing all the podcasts, everything that's that we do at RoofersCoffeeShop. So very interested in the podcast. It is. It's good. Yeah, that was really fun. I've been invited to look at you, but I just was a little confident not to find every offer. So be careful once we get to town. Yeah, we're ready. And this isn't too late. It's just why it's important, maybe. No, definitely go for that. Okay. And we'll do a Q&A at the end, so it's good. It's nice to yeah. We got some funny stories. Yeah. We're going to talk there. So, yeah.
Now you guys are competing against the Roofer panel.
I know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's lots of people. Yeah. And that's for Eve is on there. That's for Eve from yeah. It's a big. Yeah. Yeah.
So long as I can do this. I've done it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not that hard. Yeah. It really is. Yeah. In fact, you do panels, which we have podcasts. They usually record them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess those podcasts are recorded.
It makes it a little easier. You do it right. Thank you both ways. So, shall we start? Okay.
Come in.
Don't worry, I'm the next one, so.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Hello. My name is Megan Ellsworth.
And I'm Heidi Ellsworth with RoofersCoffeeShop.
And today we're going to be talking about podcasts. So, how podcasting can be instrumental into our class. So, a little introduction. This is Heidi and I. Heidi is my mom. This was my first experience of being on a roof. I've been in the roofing industry for about 5 years now, and have been editing podcasts and producing content for about 5 years, and have been in charge of all the RCS podcast materials, content marketing, all that jazz since 2018. And Heidi, do you want to introduce yourself?
Well, first of all, I want you to know that I had full access to the roof. I wasn't closed, and safety was number one. So, baby on my back about 25 years ago. I've been in the roofing industry for about 30 years. Started out with more roofing, was in charge of communications, marketing communications for Carlisle, and then part of the Eagle View startup. Came to RoofersCoffeeShop as an owner in 2015, although I helped launch it in 2002. And so we've learned a lot together on how to make this and build this multimedia platform that we've created today at RoofersCoffeeShop, and we're excited to share that with all of you.
Yeah, we're super excited. So Roofers Coffee Shop has several types of content that we produce besides podcasts. We have about 5 different podcast shows, AskARoofer Podcast, Roof Road Trip Stories from the Roof Podcast, Roofer of the Month Coffee Conversations and RLW's MetalCasts and Metal Talks, Coatings Cast and Coatings Talks. And I also edit the Roofing Think Tank podcast and the producer of that podcast as well. I'm excited. So, been in it for a while, and Heidi is the host of a lot of our shows. So, why podcasts?
So what we want to cover today is we want to cover why be involved with podcasts in the first place. I think we're going to kind of walk through, there's always being a guest on a podcast, we were just talking about with Melanie, then there's starting your own podcast, and then how do you go about that? So that's kind of the theme as we go through the hour. We're also Megan's going to get very tactical into equipment, editing, how to upload, all the things I don't do. And then I'll talk a little bit about being a host and kind of how we put that together to make people feel comfortable. But first I want to talk about why podcasts in the first place. It's really about building your brand. And that's what I've seen more than anything, is you build your brand both personally and for your company. And it really depends, and we'll go through this, on your goals and what you're looking to accomplish. Just like any piece of marketing, you want to have a goal of why you're doing it. Otherwise, you're just throwing them away. So we really look at building that brand personally and corporately. The other thing is, it's really about education. And this is the part we love. Most of our podcasts we do, they're always centered around education. What is going on with this product? What's happening with this initiative? Why should you be involved? And I always try to end things with, what's the next step? Because a call to action, we try to do everything with a call to action, that's the same thing in a podcast. So that education, they get educated, hopefully have some fun while they're listening to it, and then they're able to take that call to action to move on to help build their business or build themselves personally. So always, kind of like the keynote speaker yesterday, giving back. Like, what are you giving to the people who are listening to it? And then finally, you want to stand out, right? You want your company to stand out. You want to differentiate yourself from other companies. You want to do something that's a little bit different. We always like to do things different. So we don't look at our competition a whole lot, but we don't have a whole lot of competition. We look at what we think our audience wants and how we can stand out to them to be the source that they come to. So, and finally, on why podcasting. This is just kind of interesting. I want to read a few little stats. So 42% of Americans 12 and up listened to a podcast in the last month. 42% of Americans. I think that's amazing. 464 million people in the world, that's 22%, listen to podcasts. And who finds these stats? I'm not sure how they found that exactly, but this one I really believe, over 40 million, there was over 40 million listeners increase in the last year of people who have started to listen to podcasts. So something that used to be very Gen Z, used to be very millennial, now is definitely Gen X, and even getting into the boomers. And then the next generation, that's how they're going to learn. So as you think about the future of your business, you really want to be where they're at. One of the things you'll see that we talk about a lot at Roofers Coffee Shop is we actually just trademarked RLW, read, listen, watch. How does your audience want to digest the information? Do they want to read it? Do they want to listen to it? Do they want to watch it? Or a combination of all of those things? So that's really what has motivated why you should really be looking at podcasting.
Yes, exactly. Well said. Also, it is really, people are starting to use podcast platforms where you listen to them, like Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, as a search engine in a way, looking for, home improvement or DIY episodes or whatever, especially they're using YouTube as a search engine. Think about it, if you need to, learn how to build an IKEA shelf, you can look it up on YouTube and then you get to watch it, and for me it's a lot easier. So, things like that. So why start your own compared to being a guest? Podcasts are a really useful tool for companies and individuals looking to expand their digital footprint in today's digital world. Podcasts have become a key part of marketing, offering a way to interact with consumers in a completely different way than ever before. People can engage with you by asking questions in the comments of your podcast, through social media, and they can actually hear you speaking to them, literally, in their ear.
Yeah, such great information. We know right now, we were looking through the analytics before this, we had a week this year that we had 2,300 downloads. And we were just like, yeah. And now we're like, okay, what happened now? Where were we? What were we doing? What was the podcast? What got such interest? And then at the same time, we were also able to see, okay, most people are listening on Apple Podcasts. But then we had a bunch that was on Google and on Firefox, and we're like, okay, they're listening to that on our website. So it helps your marketing overall to kind of know where they're coming in from and how they're listening to it, and then you can kind of adjust that.
Yeah, and then you can also see like where your listeners are living. Like a majority of our listeners are in the United States, but we do have a decent handful coming from China and Canada. So,
yeah. China is priceless. That's it.
So now it's time to promote your lovely podcast. A lot of people use their podcasts to share short form clips to their social media once per week. Like we said, you can cannibalize this content and use it on multiple platforms. That's what we do. We post loads of, TikTok, Instagram Reel style videos to social media of the podcast being recorded, and people tend to really like those, and then they go listen to the podcast. Podcasts are really, by doing a podcast or being a part of a podcast, being a guest, you're investing in your SEO, your search engine optimization. So when someone is Googling roofer in my area, if you have a higher SEO than, say, roofer truck down the road, you're going to come up first because you are on the internet more, basically. I'm sure you all know what SEO is. So this just gives you out more, if you're getting more content into the void. And so that's what that is. And then adding a page to your website also, once you start your podcast. Or if you are a guest on multiple podcasts, add a page to your website that's, something like Cash Our CEO and all these different episodes, or all links to articles that you mentioned it, or whatever, something like that. That also helps you build your online presence, just like a podcast would.
We do a lot. So anytime that I go onto a podcast, we're promoting it on social media, it goes onto our website, like being said, and search engine optimization, SEO, it drives it by having it on the website, by having it on the podcast channels, by having it come up in Google. And Google's when you think about, you type in something, okay, here comes some video clips, right? Here comes the images. They're pretty soon thinking about sound too, because Alexa hears us all, right? And so that is all coming back in. So the more you can do in all those different formats, it does bring your company to the top of the search engine. But I think too, just promoting it is great within your company, right? So getting your employees to listen to it, and then sending it out to your customers in your newsletter. Right? Say, hey, here's this most recent podcast. You want to learn about safety equipment on your commercial building. We've talked to the experts at so-and-so. And then I'll send now because if you think about commercial roofing, there's a lot of young people sitting in a cubicle making decisions about roofing who've never seen anything but they're listening to podcasts. So whether you're commercial or residential, it works both directions.
And then we talked about this in the very beginning, but so maybe you don't have the time to start a podcast or the interest, but you still want to be a part of one. There are tons of podcasts out there in roofing, but it is still a very small market, so there's lots of room to grow, lots of room for more podcasts to be created. So don't worry about that. But the RT3 podcast, our podcast roofing road trips and AskARoofer, where we interview roofing contractors every month. And then Limitless is a great one. All sorts of podcasts are listed on this website as well. We happen to be number 3. I was shocked by that. I was very happy to see that when I was doing research for this presentation. But being a guest can be very lucrative, very fun, a great way to network within your industry.
Look in your local community. So you're going to probably, on the radio shows, there's going to be home improvement and it really, that's just a podcast, right? They're doing home improvement things. Talk to them about getting involved. Listen, do Google searches in your local community about community, your LOMA or HOAs. They have some podcasts, but a lot of your big charities will have podcasts too. So like if you're giving back to the, which I'm sure you all are, as you give back to the community, whether you go onto someone else's podcast or being interviewed, those kind of things, that all really helps. And it's like a great way to start. I sometimes a lot of contractors say, well, why should I even care about national life? Why should I care about roofing technology think tank? Because again, it's SEO, but it's also brand and thought leadership. So now you are involved with a group. If you don't know what roofing technology think tank is, it's a group of roofing professionals who focus on technology. And they have a podcast that focuses on technology. Great one to follow, but also to get a group to get involved with. Obviously, we're a little prejudiced about our podcast, but that's another way to just talk to us to get involved. So whatever your favorite is, you'll find them out there, and it's really a great way. Just a quick story, when I first started in roofing, I had a roofing company out of Portland, Oregon, who I was working for marketing, and he says, I want to get articles in every big magazine out there in the country. You know, roofing contractor just calls something different then, but all these different magazines. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I said, why? You know, aren't we trying to get consumers here in the Portland Metro? He says, I want the manufacturers to know who I am. I want them to know my business. I want them to know my company, so we can build those relationships, so we can get the pricing, we can get the rebates, we can get all that stuff you're not supposed to talk about. But, so looking at these national podcasts and getting involved with them, again, is building your brand as a company, not just something you can share with your customers, but something you're now going to be getting in front of national distributors and manufacturers. So,
well said. Okay, so wrap up time. Questions are totally awesome, but just to end with this, is podcasting allows you to humanize your brand, create community around your company, and it gives your audience the chance to reach back out through commenting, through being a guest on your podcast, engaging with you through the interwebs. And that can provide really valuable insights to your business and what you're trying to do. So I'll open it up to questions now.
yes.
I had one earlier. You were talking about different formats. Do you have multiple shows that you're going to vary the format? I mean, you're heavily interviewed, but can you do different types of formats as well?
Absolutely, yeah. I actually have a podcast that I do with a friend of mine all about songwriting, and we do all sorts of different formats, different weeks and different episodes. Sometimes we're interviewing a songwriter, sometimes we're just chit-chatting between the two of us. Yeah.
Kind of just, it is going along with your theme. That's what you want to think about. And because sometimes you're going to be the experts. You're going to be talking about Christmas lights. I don't know, that's a great
Yeah.
yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Have any of you been on podcasts before? Oh, yes. Very cool. And how was that?
It was scary. It was in the middle of a trade show, and they put all this stuff on you. You cannot hear anybody, and you all of a sudden you're having this conversation with somebody. You're like, I don't need to talk to my boyfriend. That's stuff. It's like also, I got this cool voice. I mean, you're like, whoa, do I sound like that? And I'm like, oh my goodness. But you got to get past that. At first, that's what they're trying to do, is break the ice with you at first, so that you can ease up, and then they ask you good questions, and then you just be your own. The number one thing is be authentic. Be who you are. Don't try to think, oh, I've got to be perfect, because you're never going to be perfect. Public speaking is not my forte, but it's like you got to get up there, and the only way you're going to get there. And you never know. You might answer a question, or somebody might connect with you because, you used to take photographs for NASCAR. Oh my gosh, who was her favorite driver? They might be excited about something like that. Or I'd rather sit in the mountains and look at the stars and sit by a campfire than sit on a beach. You can say those things. You got to be who you are. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm excited. I would love to. That's what I'm looking for our guest. Yeah. That's what I want to do, to pull the state together to help build our our reach.
Yeah.
And for people, because I was a marketing major, and you guys, marketing is one thing I hate to do in my company. I'd rather bid a job and look at numbers. But when I get on the phone, that salesperson
You're a salesperson.
bids like, man.
You know, and you just started, I love it, I think you started saying this, be your authentic self.
Oh, yeah.
That is like the most important thing. I have a hard time saying words. Certain words I can't say. And I'll mix my words and stuff. And so when we first started the podcast, I was so self-conscious. I was just like, oh my gosh, people are going to think I'm an idiot. I can't say these words right. Or people's names. Oh my God, it's like a nightmare for me. And so we go through it. And then one day I was just like, you know what? I just have to embrace that's me. I try really hard to get all the words and names right. But if I don't, I apologize. We smile. The team just cracks up. They're like, what you can say next? And it's worked. It's kind of done things. So I think you're 100% right. It's
Right.
just kind of who you are is what people want to see.
Well, and I
It's
think-
not perfection.
I think that's the hardest thing to do as a person. It's just to figure out who you are and then to embrace it and then move forward. Because, let's face it, we are not perfect. None of us are. And you're going to say something stupid occasionally. So.
And I don't think people want that anymore. I don't think, the overproduced is, so when you were saying you're on the thing, you had the headphones on, we're totally different. And I'm not saying one's right or one's
Well,
wrong.
we had to block out all
Yeah.
the sound.
We do these special nights in the booth, and we've got people all around us, and we're talking, so anybody can come by, we'll interview you. Love to, Holly, it's the new president. And those kinds of things, so we know we're not overproduced. We're not even overproduced, we're being more and more, but we also, that's part of our brand, right? That's part of our grassrootsness, that's who we are. And so Western States does a really good podcast that I can share with you and love to help. Because I think
I think RCAT needs that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will ask, well, I'm a member of RCAT, but what do I get out of it? And I'm like, what do you want out of it? You got to put some time in to get something out of it, right? It's with anything you do. So I'm like, it's building our membership, getting the word out. But we don't just do legislation. We do knowledge. We teach knowledge. We build a community that I can call Melanie and go, Melanie, I need a kettle, or I need this. Do you have that in your market? Or I'm running up against this type of human resource type issue. And there's so many people. It's just like, probably most people don't even know. I went through the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business. And it was 800 applicants, and it narrowed down to 25 of us.
Wow.
And it was, if you have the opportunity to find that in your area, go for it. Because it's peer-to-peer training, and it's an MBA level from Babson College, free to use.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you want a recommendation, I can recommend it. So.
See, that would be a great topic for the RCAP.
Right.
It's good for other contractors.
Right, because I think I don't know if there's one in Houston, but in Dallas there is one, and they run the cohort. It's a 16-week course. When you get done, you're like, what just happened?
Awesome.
You find out what you need, you find out what you don't need. My friend Karen that was running around selling lottery tickets or not lottery tickets, I wish it was the lottery tickets, but the scholarship tickets, her and I met, and we have formed a friendship beyond just our work life. And I have all kinds of connections to different types of people, and that's what's really cool. You guys sometimes get out of the roofing industry and pull some different people in and get different views and knowledge and other contractors. So, yeah. And see, a lot of women in the roofing industry probably don't know about NAWIC, which is National Association of Women in Construction. I know we don't have NWIR, I'm not biased, but we have been around 75 years, we created, working in the construction world. So it's like, there's a lot of different things.
That is a great organization. It's awesome. Yeah.
They are amazing. I'm going there.
I bet they have a podcast. Do they have a podcast?
I don't know if they do. I know we have,
I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna search for that.
I don't know. I'll have to call Chrissy, our executive director. They're located right in Fort Worth, by the way.
Okay.
I didn't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't.
If you need some introduction, I can help you with
I would
that.
love that.
Yeah, because you're dealing with women that are in all trades,
Yeah,
not just,
right. Which is so important for your local community too, to
Right.
really make those relationships and help each other.
right.
The network, and we're all podcasting, the networking is so incredible. Right?
I mean, but podcasting is making that reach
Yeah.
to network with people that go, oh, wait, I listened to this in so-and-so's market or whatever.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I love it.
Fun.
Other questions?
No, y'all can be quiet. Y'all did not stay out like I did last night. I know it. I closed the bar down. I never do that. And I don't drink.
I did that the first night, but last night, I moved in the room and stayed.
The ABC party was awesome. And I'm going to tell you, when DFW, when we have my conference, which will be next year, at the Urban Convention Center, they want to step it up.
Yeah.
Even one more.
That was way too much fun.
Oh,
That part was really cool. We went upstairs, we had the whole upper level, and it had like basketball deals, and they had this little video thing. You stood on the little platform and they videoed you all the way around. They had swings, I mean, it was fun.
And
What do you know about
I
it?
stayed up too late in the hotel lobby the night before, so I missed that. The wrong night.
Dang.
Yeah.
We need to make a podcast about that.
Yes.
Drinks,
There you go.
Events.
Drinks, food. I mean, I don't care if it's like, hey, you like to barbecue? You know, how do you barbecue? How do you make your green chili stew?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm from New Mexico, so.
Oh, nice. Well, thank you all so much. This has been fabulous.
Yeah, this presentation is available, and so if you want it, we can get it to you. We have some business cards up here we'll grab, and thank you for being here today, and thank you for like taking this next step, because a lot of people are kind of like, what? You're kind of crazy, but we appreciate you all, so thank you so much.
See, Melanie, we need to do one all over.
Yeah, you guys should do one.
No, I was gonna say, who are you gonna have, I would like to be around the podcast from.
Oh,
Thank you. Yeah, and what I was noticing, talking to a few of the contractors yesterday, there's a crew leader here. I was like, uh-oh, they're coming. But I'm like, the only thing that you don't know is the business side, and that's, once you learn the business side, you can do any trade. You don't even have to do roofing. Once you get the business fundamentals down, which is something that, you know, especially the people that install the roofs, they don't understand that part, they just haven't done it. I'm like, that's a force to be reckoned with. But
Yeah,
provide more content. I
Chris,
just
do you
talked
know
to-
what crew is? Are you talking about commercial real estate?
No, we're talking about.
So there was a
crew leader.